And we are live here, the Boxing Source in the midweek report is back. That's right. The midweek report is back. It's been a good little while since we were able to do, midweek report here in the um, basically uh, at one point in between shows. So, we usually do something here on YouTube here for a little bit, kind of talk about, a few topics that either wasn't covered on the podcast on Sunday or any news that, may have came down over the course of the, past few days, So thing about it is that wanted to go over a few things here and kind of like talk about that and see if you know what could happen next in reference to a few of these topics. So wanted to get that going, get that jumping here. Starting off with the first thing here about um, the thing with Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos Jr. You had Teofimo Lopez, of course, defeat Vasyl Lomachenko to be the unified lightweight champion. He did have the IBF title going into the fight by, defeating Richard Comey at Madison Square Garden. Then he had his next fight, which was last year against Vasyl Lomachenko, was able to get the decision win and get the WBA title, the WBO title, and the franchise champion WBC title. And with that being known, you had the eliminator bout for the IBF as George Kambosos Jr. Fought Lee Selby, and George Kambosos was able to get the decision win. That was a fairly close bout between those two fighters. Me thinking back to the fight, I felt like Lee Selby was able to box very well over the course of the 12 rounds. And, truthfully, I felt like George Kambosos wasn't very active over those rounds. And I felt like Lee Selby would have gotten the decision, but he didn't. And so that means that George Kambosos is the highest ranked IBF contender, and he would, eventually be the mandatory contender for the IBF lightweight title. Now, in what was that? I think it was like about a month ago, like 4 weeks ago. The one of the handlers there for George Kambosos Jr. Did talk about potentially having an offer to Teofimo Lopez to have Teofimo Lopez fight George Kambosos over in Australia. So you would have, George Kambosos as the home, pretty much having the home field advantage, so to speak, against Teofimo Lopez. But according to multiple reports, given the thing about COVID-19, large events over in Australia may be put on hold there. So they wanted to get a very large crowd for that fight between Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos. But looks like the rules there over in Australia is not allowing that to, basically happen there. So, so you do have those issues going on as far as like if that particular fight is going to happen, man. So, I mean, that could have been a fairly good thing going there to have Teofimo Lopez have his exposure over in Australia. But that's not potentially going to happen. We had something there with who was it? With Keith Idec talking with Bob Arum, I guess, and he was saying like, right now the money looks like it's lined up for that fight that would enable us to put that fight on in Australia. But you can't really get into Australia now. At a minimum, you gotta do a 14-day quarantine, and that's not a bullshit American quarantine. You gotta go to a government hotel and stay there for 14 days. So yeah, apparently, they feel like the thing there is strict where you have Australia not necessarily having large events and beefing up the travel restrictions, therefore international travel, and have the news about I think travel here to the U.S. Now requires that you have to be either COVID-19 negative or have the I guess have the vaccine or whatever it is or whatnot. But out in these other countries, they have various rules. So that's going to be the gist of what's going on. So for that particular fight with Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos, right now it may not necessarily happen soon. The thing is that like Aaron was saying, we're looking to do that fight with government support. The Australian government is trying not to attract tourists, but to keep out tourists at this point until the pandemic is over worldwide, because Australia has managed the pandemic extraordinarily well and they have very few cases. And they don't want us foreigners to come in and contaminate them. Oh well. So you do have that. Teofimo Lopez has basically stated that he is asking for, $10 million. You know what I'm saying? $10 million, I guess, for that fight to take place over in Australia. Now, he has also stated, in the past that he had interest in fighting Devin Haney, who is the WBC lightweight champion. And of course, we know about the conversation that Teofimo Lopez had with the chairman of Matchroom Boxing, basically Eddie Hearn, and talking to him and asking for $10 million. Well, Eddie Hearn on a recent episode of the Akim Barak show said that, hey, I mean, more power to Teofimo Lopez asking for $10 million. But you ain't getting $10 million from me, bro. So as far as like a fight between Teofimo Lopez and Devin Haney, if Teofimo Lopez's asking price is $10 million, then we ain't basically seeing that fight with Teofimo Lopez. So we got to see what's happening with him as far as like if he's going to end up fighting the IBF mandatory George Kambosos Jr. And if it is going to be in Australia, how long will it take before Australia, lowers down their travel restrictions so that, the fight, like fighters and everyone involved, in making that fight happen are able to participate. So that's, what is going down, basically with that. I mean, Teofimo Lopez, like I said, is riding high there with the, victory over Vasyl Lomachenko. There's some people that feel like, maybe Vasyl Lomachenko should have a rematch. But as far as I know, Like they ain't really no noise as far as like a rematch clause for that particular fight. And that's basically the gist of it. I mean, it's a unification bout. Sometimes you do have rematch clauses and unifications, but in this particular case, nope, that ain't what happened. You know, so that was just something there where, I think that some people just felt like, you know, um, Vasily Lomachenko was going to win that fight. I go through those, numbers there. So, and remember those odds against Teofimo Lopez were fairly high, especially for a decision win. So, with Lopez getting that win over Lomachenko and doing it the way that he did, that kind of like was a big type of impact win there for Teofimo Lopez to get those other belts that Vasily Lomachenko had there to become the unified champ. So when it comes to Teofimo Lopez in his next fight, as far as like George Kambosos, as long as Australia has those travel restrictions, that fight can't, basically take place. So, that's, basically the gist of that with Teofimo Lopez. And I mean, he's still riding high. He's still confident. He's still upbeat, as being as, now the top ranked lightweight there. So he has multiple options there being the unified champion. And, one of them is having that mandatory defense of the IPF lightweight title. But as of right now, the highest potential of having that fight over in Australia has basically calmed down there a little bit for the time being. So we've got to wait it out and see if they're able to work some dealings out to either, have that fight happen in the U.S. or if they have to wait it out until like the 14-day restriction or quarantine gets, basically, qualmed, so to speak, given the whole thing with the vaccines and, all that other stuff. So we, shall see about that. The other thing going down or happening right now is a potential thing about former unified champ Keith Thurman. Yeah, people want to talk about him cutting his hair. Yes, whatever, right? But apparently there may be something where he may have talked with Bob Arum in reference to making a fight there with Terence Crawford. Shout out there to Brother Lawrence, man. What's good? What's happening with you? Just here with the midweek report. Get back at it. Seems like Thurman has reached out to Top Rank and Bob Arum to potentially have a fight between him and Terence Crawford. Now, we did have the whole thing last year where that could have potentially been a fight, and the whole thing was about Keith Thurman talking with, I guess, representatives for Top Rank and, Coach Bomack hearing that there was a, asking price from Keith Thurman, and he was saying that the asking price was $10 million. And, Keith Thurman really ain't say that it was $10 million. There wasn't, people around, either Top Rank or through Keith Thurman that said that he was asking for $10 million. So that fight basically got nixed, or the potential of having that fight got nixed right off the bat from there. But we found out that, Terence Crawford ended up fighting Kell Brook, and Terence Crawford got paid $4 million, and Kell Brook got paid $2 million. So now the thing has basically been revisited And now we're going to be interested to see who is going to move forward as far as like trying to make that fight happen. For Terence Crawford, right now being the WBO champion, like I said, he had this win over Kell Brook. A lot of people were talking about him facing Errol Spence, but going from Crawford's words, he said, if the fight makes sense, then it's going to happen. And, at that time when he said it, which was back in February last year, the fight didn't basically make sense. You had the thing where, Errol Spence was, recovering from his car accident and things like that. And I didn't think that Crawford was, at the time interested in fighting Errol Spence at that time after Spence was coming off his injury. He wanted to wait until Spence was pretty much back at around full strength or at full strength before trying to go for that particular fight. Now after Spence has won his fight against Danny Garcia, it's about seeing what the next move is for both fighters. And right now, I see Spence leaning towards getting a fight with Manny Pacquiao. I think by the summer, probably be by May or June, that Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence are going to happen for the WBC, IBF, and WBA welterweight titles. And Crawford will have to, have another fight with an opponent. Now, we also know about his situation with Top Rank and his contract with Top Rank, and that it's ending in October of this year. We know about the talk about him having a potential WBO mandatory challenger in Shawn Porter, and that those talks had been, buzzing around over the past few weeks or a few weeks ago, and Porter basically said on his podcast, "Hey, I'm not fighting Terence Crawford for $1 million. That's just not going to happen." So if they can't come up with, more money for Shawn Porter, that's going to be interesting. Because if they can't come up with more than $1 million for Shawn Porter, are they going to come up with more than $1 million for Keith Thurman? And it's kind of weird because you have, like I said, you put up a purse of $6 million total for a fight between Terence Crawford and Kell Brook. A lot of people feel like Kell Brook is not, there as far as like being at his peak. He's maybe past his peak or whatever it is, or past his, highest performance level. So if you're able to provide $2 million for Kell Brook, regardless of what type of reach you were trying to get from, here, the U.S., and over in the UK, with a fight the magnitude of Crawford and Porter was able to get, $2 million base for his fight against Errol Spence. So if they don't come up with more money in a potential purse for a fight between Terence Crawford and Shawn Porter, then how are they going to do that for Keith Thurman? Because that's going to be the thing. Like Keith Thurman is, kind of like saying, it looks like his approach is like, hey, I mean, I know you're WBO champ and I'm not a champ and, this and that, but I'm willing to, I'm willing to fight you. So if that's the case, then what's basically going to happen there? Now, we did see Terence Crawford over in Dallas, Texas, AT&T Stadium for that Errol Spence, Danny Garcia fight. And that they, were mentioning many times over that he was there, that his presence and, was there to watch, Errol Spence and everything like that. But if that fight isn't going to happen next, then you may see Terence Crawford against either a Shawn Porter or maybe a Keith Thurman. because right now there really isn't much, many other options for Terence Crawford to have there while holding the WBO welterweight championship. Like I said, I mean, you got your boy there, Sean Porter, as the top ranked guy in the WBO rankings. Virgil Ortiz is, there at number 2. There is somebody that's a wild card at number 3 that Terence Crawford could face, and he is viewed as a free agent. But the thing about it is, that guy was able to get a good amount of money for his last fight. Like he was able to pull off, what I would say, $4 million to $5 million for his fight, that he had against Jesse Vargas. So that's just actually is more than that. Like he reportedly made $7 million for fighting Jesse Vargas. Think about that, folks. Mikey Garcia, right? Moved up from 135 to 147. Lost to Errol Spence Jr., basically got shut out by Errol Spence Jr. at 147 pounds. Didn't fight for basically a year, right? And then his next fight that he had in February of last year, he was able to get $7 million. So if he's like potentially having interest in fighting Bud Crawford, what do you think his asking price would be? Probably had to be right around that range or something like that, $7 million or more. So if that's going to be the case, then you're going to have to pay, Terence Crawford more than that. So my thing is this, like right now, Terence Crawford, may have multiple options, but not many of those options, or I don't see any option at all that involves top rank with it. Most of the guys that you see on here are either involved with, Premier Boxing Champions or Heyman Boxing, or someone that he's basically fought already in, that Gideon Cavaliauskas. So right now, I just see that you have a very interesting situation there with Terence Crawford holding the WBO welterweight title in his quest to, fight Errol Spence there, which would be the biggest fight in the welterweight division. But I mean, Thurman said he wants to, throw his name, in the hat to, potentially fight Terence Crawford. But hey, if we have the whole thing about, what happened last year, where the whole buzz was talking about potentially like asking for, millions of dollars, right? There's like some things, buzzing around that may be, they have that Crawford or Top Rank has the same amount of interest in the Thurman fight as the Porter fight, but I'm just looking at it and saying like, well, let me see. Will they actually try to make those fights? So that's my thing about it. I have to see about if. What was it? Was it Cunningham? I think it is. That's with Thurman. That made that call over to Bob Arum and the team there for Terence Crawford. So I mean, like I said, Bomac is not only Crawford's trainer, but he's the manager. So maybe he has some info on this, or maybe he doesn't. But Right now, I think Crawford would benefit real nicely if he has a fight with either Keith Thurman or Sean Porter, because I feel like if they want to try to make this fight between Crawford and Spence and get the most money out of it, Crawford may have to end up fighting one of those guys first before he gets a fight with Errol Spence. And, like you were saying, I mean, at that point last year, the fight probably doesn't make sense. So, which is understandable. Right now, if they don't feel like the fight makes sense, then I get don't basically make that fight. But right now, I mean, given that Errol Spence did have his fight over in Texas against Danny Garcia, you got to see if there's going to be something to the point where they'll have more people on there so that they can maximize the gate revenue for a fight of that magnitude. But like I've said before, I really don't feel like the fight between Spence and Crawford is going to happen until Crawford is completely free of Top Rank. This is kind of like no different than a situation that you had with Miguel Cotto and Floyd Mayweather. Miguel Cotto didn't have his fight against Floyd Mayweather until basically his contract was done with Top Rank. He had his second fight with Antonio Margarito. He got out of that contract, and then that next fight, he was there in the ring against Floyd Mayweather. And I feel like this is going to be the same situation. You're going to have Terence Crawford either have one more fight there under Top Rank, or they're going to find a way to have his the remaining part of his contract bought out. Then he'll be able to fight, Errol Spence there. But I think that he's going to have a fight between either Sean Porter or Keith Thurman before he has his fight with Errol Spence. So that breaks that down, right? Now, you had this other thing here, kind of like seeing this around boxing forums and the boxing community through YouTube and whatnot in reference to Gervonta Tank Davis. Now, I mean, you had Tank Davis. They're talking about a potential fight between him and Ryan Garcia. Of course, you had the whole thing about him being FaceTimed by Mike Tyson while Mike Tyson was talking to Ryan Garcia, and they were talking about, we're gonna have this fight. This fight's gonna happen. They had the whole thing posted on social media with them two in a little bit of a flyer that was made up, like they're going to fight. Like the initial buzz was there, but I think we got to pump a little brakes on that. You know what I'm saying? Just pump some brakes on that real quick. One thing is that, coming from Leonard Ellaby, who, basically is a manager, main manager for Gervonta Davis, he basically said that, that Tank Davis is going to be there at 130 pounds. And he may be there for a little while. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I mean, he did, win a version of the WBA title, and the thing about it is that, he said, Leonard Ellaby said that, he feels like Gervonta Tank Davis is the most exciting young boxer in the world today. But that, he wanted to say that he wants to maximize the amount of money that Gervonta Davis can make. And that is through gate receipts or gate sales that he feels. So he's like, well, I know that we had this fight over in Texas with Leo Santa Cruz. We were able to, fit in as many people as we could fit in for that particular instance. But now, given that he was able to, fill up an arena in Atlanta at the end of December of 2019, that, we had, very good attendance for the two previous fights that he had. The one that was in World Farms Arena in Baltimore, and I think there was the other one that was in California, if I'm not mistaken. That he, like Leonard Ellaby, is really invested in making Gervonta Tank Davis that, next superstar in the sport of boxing. And, he feels like in order for that to happen, he wants to put Gervonta Tank Davis in arenas that are able to have full capacity. Now, given this current situation here in the States, I really doubt that it could happen anytime soon, at least not within the next 4 or 5 months. Like Texas could have their, thing with their capacity rules, and, other states could probably have that same thing. But as far as like 100% capacity, I really don't see that happening anytime soon, because you're gonna have the whole thing about, like I said, with the vaccines and the rules, and not just rules nationwide, but rules through the states and the cities themselves, that they can't really hold sporting events or large events like that and have full capacity. Just basically isn't going to happen anytime soon. So, with that being said, how are they going to handle Gervonta Davis for his next fight? Whether it's, against a Ryan Garcia or somebody else. If he wants to stay at 130 pounds, then, what are you going to do? I just feel like with Tank, it's you got to be able to mold him right. Yes, he does want to, face the likes of a Ryan Garcia, or maybe, Devin Haney or Teofimo Lopez, or whoever's out there at 135. Really don't see that many options there at 130. There was a potential about Tank Davis fighting Vasyl Lomachenko, but not sure how that was going to work out. But if Leonard Ellaby is saying like, hey, I want to have Tank Davis in arenas that could fill in the most people possible. Well, right now, Texas is about as good as you could get, so to speak, as far as like the amount of people that you could have in a venue. So that, probably is going to put Tank Davis on ice there for a good little while until, they see something about announcements from, various states saying that we could allow more people to come in to attend these events. So while he had that little momentum there with the knockout of Leo Santa Cruz last October, as of right now, we might, see him be, put on the bench for a good little time, man. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, with that being said, Ryan Garcia, he ain't gonna be fighting Tank Davis. He, like I said before, I feel like he's gonna have that fight against Jorge Linares. Like Linares was originally slated to fight Ryan Garcia last July, but then that fight got erased and kind of like forgotten and put up to the wayside. And then you got, he was set up, Jorge Linares was set up to fight Javier Fortuna for a WBC Diamond Lightweight title. But we know that Linares, got hit with the COVID. After that, we haven't heard much about Jorge Linares since. Haven't really heard much about him since. That's, kind of a interesting thing there, because, like I said, he was, basically lined up to, go up against like I said, first with Ryan Garcia, then with Javier Fortuna, and now, nope. That basically is, out, out of the cards. So, you know, so that's the thing about that. I mean, you have that lightweight situation. I kind of like talked about it in one of these other videos that's on the channel. I said, look, you have a situation there where you could have Ryan Garcia, if he doesn't fight Devin Haney and he doesn't fight Devontae Davis, then he fights Jorge Linares. Devin Haney, yeah, he could fight Ryan Garcia. I mean, they're both there, on the zone, but I don't see it happening. And he's not gonna fight Teofimo Lopez. That's not gonna, that's just not gonna, happen there, man. So you got that. So I feel like Devin Haney should go ahead and have the thing where he defends against what they say the WBC mandatory. Like I said, the thing there with him going up against Javier Fortuna, man. So that's basically the thing with the lightweight situation, and I feel like that kind of like shapes up what could happen here at lightweight for the next 6 to 7 months or whatnot. You know what I mean? I also wanted to touch on a couple of things that was talked about yesterday through Eddie Hearn. Eddie Hearn was talking with Akim Barak, and one of the things that he was trying to push was this whole thing about the WBO middleweight champion, Demetrius Andrade. Now, we know about him. Like I said, he got the WBO title because it was vacant, because Billy Joe Saunders got hit with, a positive test for, illegal substance. So Andrade was able to defeat Walter Carton-Dakwa to, get the belt. And then after getting the belt, his title defenses have been, according to a lot of people, right? So he's been looking for that opportunity to, face someone that's there, like highly ranked in the middleweight division, right? You got these guys out here, like I said, world champions. We know about the situation of back and forth in reference to Andrade and the WBC champ Jamal Charlo. There was a claim about him, like saying like, hey, I could have, went ahead and fought Charlo over there on Showtime or whatever it is, but they wanted a multi-fight deal, and I wasn't, I wasn't interested in a multi-fight deal. All I wanted was a fight, one-time fight with Jamal Charlo. And, I guess, Eddie Hearn was, kind of like buying it, saying that, hey, we say, you know what? You don't even need to come over to the zone to fight Demetrius Andrade. You could, go ahead and fight him on Fox or fight him on Showtime. And, Demetrius Andrade could, be the B-side, and he could take the lesser, amount of money for the fight. And he said, like, that the party for Charlo, like Jamal Charlo, wasn't interested. I'm like, hey, I feel like that's very interesting right there, given the whole thing about, what happened with, Demetrius Andrade and Jermell Charlo years ago when they could have fought, and Demetrius Andrade ended up, having the thing be taken out due to, Paul Andrade saying he didn't want to fight there. But I wanted to get in, I guess someone in here wants to join in the biggest bodyguard in the state of Florida. The man that lifts up gals more than I do. Brother Terrell, what's going on?
Before I even acknowledge that, I need to pull some bullets from the Uber Super last Uber Soca Cruise or whatever that thing is, and check the footage. And
Hey,
you know,
you can
you
check
know,
the footage all you want to, but I'll tell you this: the last one, I'm the one taking the footage, so you can't catch me in nothing.
no. You know, and I know we know a lot of the same people. And I got people that from the back of you saying you doing what you do, and we know what you do.
Yeah, I know. We know people that went. So, yeah, man, if they snitch on me, man, I'm gonna have to get them. Yo, but what's been happening, man? I know that the past couple weeks, as far as like live action, really hasn't been jumping off. Um, so I just been looking around and looking about as far as like any announcements that's been happening. And it did talk about potentially the next fight for Teofimo Lopez. It could have been the IBF mandatory, but they talking about that might not happen because if they were going to do it in Australia, that everybody was going to be locked down for 14 days. So looks like a lot of fights aren't happening, but there is one fight that is happening. And, that involves a guest of the Boxing Source radio show. That is Jamel Simplified Herring. He will be fighting Carl Frampton in February. Man, that's finally been announced. It's finally happening, man, after about months and months and months that, they were talking about that fight potentially happening there. So Jamel Herring will defend his WBO Super Featherweight Championship against Carl Frampton February 27th over in the UK. So I'm glad that they finally, officially announced that bout.
Yeah, and also I'm sure that you aware of. So what was it last year when that was initially agreed to? We know that Shakur Stevenson is also in that division, and it's also the mandatory for Jamil Herring, I believe, in that regard. He basically last year agreed to step aside in order to let the fight between Herring and Frampton take place. But the expiration date on that step side was, I believe, December, whatever date, late last month or whatever. And at that point, that of course expired. And as we already know, COVID took over the whole year, mashed up the entire year, mashed up many fights that we didn't see. And also, like I said, Frampton Herring was supposed to take place last year over in the UK. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
And now we move forward to the fight's finally been announced. Because I think just on the last podcast, you mentioned that you didn't know what was going on with that, even though it's still out there in the air. But now, since that announcement has now taken place, now you got Shakur Stevenson saying, you know what? No, that expiration sorry came and gone. So no, I want my shot at Herring now, sooner rather than later. So it's kind of interesting to see if there's any legal action as a result of this announcement at this point. Basically, what I'm saying with that, can Shakur Stevenson force him way into the fight with Herring to say let's fight going forth at this point? But really, bottom line, Kitchen just waited his time, let these guys fight. It's a February fight, and from that point, whoever wins the fight, and I think we both expect Herring to win that fight. Shakur Stevenson can fight the winner probably around May, June, something like that. So in terms of boxing, it's not a long wait. And hell, even if Stevenson wants to, he can take a stay busy fight in between now and everything. So, but it's kind of interesting to see what happens with that. Like I said, hope that he doesn't try to press issue and try to press his way into the fight with Herring, because we do want to see the opportunity for Herring to go across seas, go across the pond, and fight Carl Frampton. And that's when we do expect him to win. He's just probably just a better fighter at this point. Enjoys a good size advantage. So, but let the guy go over and get his payday. Let him go over there and get it. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, he was, pursuing this fight there, Herring, and have wanted it for months and months and months, at least, to, have that particular defense happen. And, it was just stalling and stalling and stalling. Like, the WBC super featherweight title fight was basically not being announced until about a week and a half ago with Miguel Berchelt and Oscar Valdez, which is going to be a week before this fight. And, you're talking about the thing there with Shakur Stevenson. He kind of like said, like, before the fight was even announced that he wanted to have that fight. He was going to allow that fight to happen, but he wanted to have it happen as soon as possible so that he could get the winner by, he said, March. And this was before his fight against Toka Clary. He said he wanted to fight the winner of, Frampton and Herring by March. And I'm like, man, that's a extremely quick turnaround. Even if they were trying to, have that fight in January. So now with them, announcing the fight here for February, that like puts Shakur Stevenson in a little bit of a situation. Is he going to, have a fight in the interim, or is he going to wait it out, a few more months to, what is it going to be, like June, I guess, for, probably that fight to happen, So I was like, man, we have to see how that whole thing works out with Shakur Stevenson, because, I mean, he didn't even have, a defense of the WBO featherweight title. He just moved right up to super featherweight and said, yo, I mean, I got this, I got the belt. Now I can move up, and now I'm a WBO mandatory. So now I want to see if I can get my shot.
Yeah, and even like you mentioned, too, with the oncoming fight for next month, Virgil Valdez, I think that most people project for Virgil to win in that fight. What they said, the last time we saw Valdez, he just didn't look that like he normally does. He got his win, but as far as when we analyze that and put it that, basically when we said with that performance by Valdez win against Virgil, and we largely said no. But despite that, it's going to be a good fight when that does happen. All Mexican affair. Where's that fight taking place at?
Oh, that would be in Las Vegas.
Vegas, okay. But still, nevertheless, going to be out on the West Coast, so that's going to have a large Mexican presence. But even as I said, large Mexican presence, let me just retract that, because as we know, right at this point, fans, a significant amount of fans are not allowed in the fights. It's still weird. Yeah. It's still weird saying that. Still weird because and even in just that fact alone, that the absence of fans has affected so many fights, and still even to this day, we know Joshua Anthony Fury, or let me start Fury Joshua. They're trying to consider fans in that venue to get that live gate, and in so many other fights where they want fights to happen, but even like you mentioned, Teofimo Lopez going down to Australia. But one of the big things he wanted to make that fight happen, instead of other fights that we want, is the possibility of a live gate down there to support that event and those purses that comes with that. But like I said, even with the Valdez Virgil fight, that's going to be a key fight within the division, and people can definitely get in line. So even if Stevenson is not in line to fight the winner of Frampton and Fury, hell, look at Virgil. Why not fight him? So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, he's positioned there. I mean, they got Stevenson like positioned at number 2 in the WBC. So if Virgil ends up beating Valdez, then Shakur Stevenson would be right there waiting in the rings for Virgil to get that WBC title there. But if Valdez wins, and that basically is a that could be a potential for a rematch there, because I don't know if the WBC had formally announced that Valdez was a mandatory challenger for Virgil there, especially given that Valdez didn't win the WBC featherweight title. That is still held by Mr. Gary Russell Jr. So if this is considered as a voluntary defense for Virgil, then Stevenson could, wait it out and say, hey, I have a choice. I could either fight the WBO champion or fight the WBC champion and see what he gets there. But either way, he wants to unify at super featherweight. So he's like, I'll fight either one of them, just one, then the other in order. It just doesn't matter. But he wants all of them there at 130 pounds.
And what's funny about that, a name that you just mentioned, definitely a friend of the show, Gary Russell Jr., I don't think I recall the last time where a guy's been mentioned from fights from his division up to two or three divisions above that. You know, he's been mentioned as possible opponents for Tank Davis, Crawford at 147. We talked about that. That was
Yep.
quite a few shows ago. Fights at 135, Devin Haney, and now here back with his own division and around his division. And it's so funny. I mean, for one, at least your name's been talked about, but it's still frustrating when your name's been talked about and an actual fight never comes to fruition. It's for varying reasons, and it's like, is he really that talented? Is the industry trying to freeze him out? I mean, it's a different story at each weight class he's trying to compete at. So it's just kind of frustrating because we need to see. We already know the story. He typically fights once a year, but at least he's trying to get himself out there, and his name's being talked about in more different circles for fights. We just hope that something actually comes to place for him.
Yep. And the thing with like I said with Gary Russell, man, he had his, like I said, he had his fight in February, pretty much the first week of February. And he had been, in a lot of buzz over the course of the year with, like you said, potential fight with Terence Crawford, the whole back and forth with him and Devin Haney. And, nothing necessarily came to fruition. And he had been, mentioned as far as like potentially unifying at 126 pounds. But you have someone in Josh Warrington who, is going to end up fighting the WBA champion at 126. So that just leaves Gary there holding the bag, still the WBC champion, still waiting on, what the next move is going to be. Because, I mean, he can't like necessarily fight who's the top contender there. Jesse Magdaleno, they ain't really pushing to make that fight happen. I ain't seen nothing about that. So, why not, just go ahead and have him, be involved in the unification bout. But they just ain't really, doing anything to, try to make that happen now. So, that's the thing there with the breaks with Gary Russell Jr. But yeah, back to the thing with 130, that's going to be a busy division there. Like I was mentioning, there was Shakur Stevenson, Jamel Herring there versus Carl Frampton. You have Miguel Burchell there going up against Oscar Valdez. And you also do still have Gervonta Davis with a world title at 130 because he was able to, win that title from Leo Santa Cruz. And I was mentioning before you came on that Leonard Ellaby had mentioned that, he feels like Gervonta Davis could still campaign there at 130 pounds. And I'm like, well, if that's the case, what is there as an option for him as far as like a next fight is concerned? Because I really don't see that many competitors there at 130 that he could be matched up against. I mean, especially if you're going to have an event, a big event that, Leonard Ellaby wants to have for him, because he won't be able to get something like he got back in October. So I would like to see like what he's going to be able to do for Tank Davis for his next fight, if it's going to be at 130 pounds.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, because keep in mind, Tank with the big fight, big knockout over Leo Santa Cruz, likely knockout of the year from last year. We know that. Like you're just saying, what's left for him? What's available for him at 130? You're coming up a pay-per-view fight. Now, granted, it didn't do super great numbers, but hell, that's his first pay-per-view. We know that you have to be built into a pay-per-view star, right? So why would you want to have a fight at 130 against a lesser opponent? In a sense, takes off your luster in that sense. So really, bottom line, there's really no one worth him fighting at 130 to be considered. I mean, put like this, especially with the fact that I know we'll definitely talk about the lightweight division real in depth soon, but
Yeah.
with the possibility of a Tank Ryan Garcia fight, that's a pay-per-view fight. So if that fight can be made for the first quarter of this year, why would you want to take a fight at 130 just to take the luster off your win over Leo Santa Cruz last year? like I said, there's really nothing left for him really to do that's worth it financially. As we remember that boxing is a business. So if you're gonna get that pay-per-view money, you want to keep getting that pay-per-view money and put upon that success and that pay-per-view honors as well. So, and nothing better than do that than to jump in the ring with Mr. Ryan Garcia and shut this boy up, like him when needs to happen. So,
Yep. I mean, that's the best. That's the best or most lucrative fight that Tank Davis could have at this point, or at least right now, is against Ryan Garcia, and I don't think it's something where he really has time to build it up because he's what is it, about 26 years old, and Ryan Garcia is 22. And if you look at the frames of both of those fighters, like Ryan Garcia could grow to be 147 pounds. Tank Davis can't do that. I think his range is basically stops at 135 pounds for him to actually perform at a great level. So it's better to strike while the iron is hot, as they say, to kind of like make that fight happen. And that fight should basically happen this year, because outside of that, I just feel like Ryan Garcia is going to be moving up north if they don't go ahead and make this fight happen this year.
but let me ask you a quick question. So remember about probably over a year ago, we were on the show talking about the lightweight division, and Ryan Garcia himself said over a good year ago, he said, I'm not ready to fight Tank yet. I'll be ready in about 1 year. Well, now you fast forward to now, that time is definitely now, to where he should be ready to fight a Tank. Uh, Realistically, can this fight be made? Consider that Tank's line with the PBC, and we know that Ryan Garcia is the golden boy in the zone. Can that fight be made? How would that fight be structured? Is that like a one fight deal with a rematch clause in place? How you see that happening?
It got to be something where there's a rematch clause put in place. But the thing about it is Tank has, he holds a world title, so he can negotiate to, basically have it to where it's a rematch clause. Um, right now, kind of like heard from a few people that particular fight could be the fight that has the most interest in the sport right now, given the element for both sides. So they want to see if they could maximize the amount of revenue that they could get off of Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia. Um, and like I said, I think this has a short shelf life to make happen before Ryan Garcia is getting a little bit too big and his frame is too much for him to keep that weight at 135 pounds. So why not go ahead and make this fight now, since it doesn't look like Ryan Garcia is going to go ahead and move to fight Devin Haney. That fight's not going to happen next, even though the WBC is trying to push for it. That fight's not going to happen next. So why not go ahead and try to make this Ryan Garcia Tank Davis fight, ASAP, because I feel like that's going to be the one that gets the most going. Oh man, guess one of our favorite panelists is listening right now, man. Hopefully he is, recovering a little bit, because he had been under the weather, to say the least, for the past few weeks. So hopefully he's, back at it. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm kind of looking at this like Tank and Ryan has to happen sometime this year, and they gotta, go ahead and move for it to happen ASAP.
Yeah, even furthermore on the potential Tank Ryan Garcia fight, like I jumped on Twitter the other day. I said that Ryan Garcia has what I think 500,000 followers on Twitter, roughly what is it, 8 million on Instagram, and I'm thankful that someone jumped on the post and said that probably a lot of Ryan Garcia's followers are kids, whatever, but still a good portion of those will be adults as far as potential pay-per-view paying people. With that said, let's say they do Tank and Garcia does jump the fight. It's gonna be a pay-per-view event. Yeah, I tell you what. In this day and age, because there's no bona fide pay-per-view star other than the heavyweight guys, things like that. If their fight does 600,000 pay-per-view buys, I would say that's a success. But they do fight pay-per-view, and Tank emphatically knocks him out, and there's a rematch clause in place. Would that even be valued for a rematch if Tank just knocks him out, destroys him? How would that go?
Yeah, that would be really really crazy there, and it would definitely build the momentum for Tank if he's able to get a knockout there, because like I was saying from last week, the thing with Ryan Garcia and his win over Luke Campbell, like he was able to be basically trending on YouTube with the 2 of the 3 top videos trending on YouTube, with over 8 to 10 million views at that particular point. That was like last Wednesday or something like that. So you have all of that going. You have that type of momentum going. You got 8.3 million followers on Instagram, going and whatnot. You got them posting something about him saying that he could potentially fight Tank Davis, and that he said he would take out Tank in 2 rounds, and we got the feedback of over 1 million people. Like, that's crazy. You know what I'm saying? But real quick, man, I want to see if this particular person could come on, if he's fully back, if he's fully ready. He's been on hiatus for a while. It's kind of been feeling good that we haven't heard from him, because he didn't have to necessarily talk about one particular person, but he had to come on here. It's the king of the rumor report. And yes, he is still the president of the Deontay Wilder fan club, Mr. Matthew Brown. What's going on, man?
Finally, The Rock has come back to the boxing source.
It doesn't matter what your name is.
It's been a long time, JR. Terrell,
What's up?
How you guys doing?
Oh, man.
My God. Yo, I gotta tell you guys, man. Cardi B was right, man. Coronavirus is real, man. That shit was kicking my ass.
Damn, bro.
But I am fully healed and I'm fully back. And let's talk some fucking boxing.
I told you to get some of that chicken noodle soup and Pedialyte and the Gatorade, man. Gotta clean that system out, bro.
Well, it's cleaned out. It's cleaned out in every fucking orifice I ever had. That shit was no joke, man.
Oh, man. Damn.
But I'm good now, man. I heard you guys talking about the king, Ryan Garcia. I know a lot of you guys before didn't think he would fight Tank Davis. But I've been telling you guys, that fight is on the horizon. And that fight definitely, to me, is coming next. There's no reason for it not to happen next. These guys, I've been reading the tea leaves for months and months and months on this fight, and I've been telling you, JR, Leonard Ellaby is a little bit too nice, a little bit too complimentary about Ryan Garcia all the time. There's never no really beef back and forth. It's just all love with them. Like, this is they setting something up.
So he doesn't have the feelings like Floyd Mayweather talking about. Listen, Ryan Garcia, he's a hell of a fighter, but listen, he got this belt, and there's way too many belts in boxing. Like, heavyweight champion, and Devin Haney's the champion, and Teofimo Lopez is the champion. There's just too many belts out here. We need to clean this up.
But notice at the end of that, what did Floyd say? Can Ryan Garcia beat Tank right now? Absolutely not. So he was planting that seed.
He's like, absolutely not. He has no chance against Tank Davis.
So to me, it's going down, and it should go down. But why isn't the boxing public putting more pressure on Teofimo Lopez to fight Devin Haney?
I thought the thing with Teofimo Lopez is that he's asking for so much money to fight Devin Haney. He's asking for so much money to fight George Kambosos. And I'm not sure if you listened to yesterday's thing with Akim Barak with Mr. Eddie Hearn. He was
I never listened to Akim Barak. Why would I listen to Akim Barak? What the hell?
Well, Jay, do me a favor. If you don't mind, back up a little bit to last week's conversation on basically on how Suleiman devalued Haney. Discuss that a little bit, please.
Well, the way that two things with Suleiman, and I know that someone called him the Dom Perignon of
yes, yes.
But the way that he basically crapped all over Devin Haney, by kind of first not really at one side he isn't really fully recognizing Devin Haney as the WBC champion, but at the other side he's pushing for Devin Haney to have 2 mandatory defenses of that belt that he has. So
yeah, that was what Lomachenko was supposed to do, and that's why Lomachenko vacated.
Exactly. And to me, that was I felt like that was just kind of BS because one, you have Devin Haney paying those sanctioning fees to hold the belt, the 3% or whatever it is. So you're gonna have him hold the belt, but you're gonna order him to face Javier Fortuna, I guess. And then he's gonna fight Ryan Garcia.
Well, he's not going to have to fight Ryan Garcia because Ryan Garcia was supposed to be first up. So technically, if Ryan Garcia chooses to fight Tank next, that knocks him off the mandatory list. So he's only going to have 1 mandatory, basically.
Yeah. So I mean that could basically do it, but at the same token, for Devin Haney's case, that puts him as far as like having a high profile fight. That kind of like throws his name out the window because then he wouldn't have that shot against Ryan Garcia and Teofimo Lopez.
But he should be fighting Lopez next. Let's all keep it real. Listen, and Teofimo Lopez is my guy.
Yeah,
but I'm getting sick of him. He's been doing a lot of talking, and a lot of the talking he's turned out to be bullshit. He was talking about, we sending offers here, we're gonna send offers here. These guys are pricing themselves out, and then Bob Arum goes on the barbershop guy show and says, "We ain't send no offers to nobody. The Lopezes don't send no offers. We send no offers, and we haven't sent no offers out to any fighters. So why is Teofimo Lopez acting like these guys don't want to fight him when there's been no offers sent out?"
Well, there's that one. And like I was saying, the thing with Kambosos, that was basically Kambosos' team sending out offers to Teofimo Lopez. But now, with the whole thing of the travel restrictions in Australia, that fight, we're gonna have to wait a little while if that fight is going to happen.
So there's nothing is stopping Teofimo from fighting Devin Haney next. There's really no excuse.
Right.
I agree.
Terrell, what are you gonna say?
No. I also say initially with the Kambosos situation, I don't blame Lopez for wanting to go down there and get his payday. Like we always talk about, boxing is a business, and that's when you're the kingpin of a division, you certainly want to cash in on that opportunity. And if you want me to go down to Australia, you got to pay for me to come down there. I get that, but come back down to reality, like you stated, with the fight that punch had been closed down, that fight likely would not happen. And just like you guys just stated, why not just go ahead and just take care of Devin Haney? It's right there, despite the fact that we got a top rank and his own fighter. Same thing with the prospect of a Ryan Garcia tank fight. Got two different promotional firms, but come together, make a deal, throw in a rematch clause, boom, if that's what you need to, and make it happen because it's a fight that the public demands now. And one point I want to make to both you guys, and that you can both appreciate, when we look at about 2 years ago, at 147, we got all the typical names at 147, and at that point, no one was fighting each other. Look at the difference now between 147 then and 135 now. We've already had a Teofimo Lomachenko fight. Ryan Garcia is entered into that mix. Basically, what I'm saying, these guys are actually wanting to fight each other instead of avoiding each other and trying to protect their record and things like that. So this should be a great year for lightweight, and because these guys actually want to fight this year, fight each other, and at that point, I think the dominoes are laying down to affect to where we're going to actually see that, like you said with Lopez Kambosos not happening. So it's going to all roads point to him fighting Haney.
Yeah, but is Lopez going to fight Haney though? Because now I'm starting to have my doubts.
Well, I mean, you already had the little thing with Haney and Bob Arum beforehand when Haney was supposed to fight Lomachenko. Now you have basically the same situation where you have a guy that's a world champ and he's with Top Rank, and you have Devin Haney right there that, like I said, he was basically supposed to fight Lomachenko and didn't get that chance, and he was named the full champion at WBC. So if Teofimo Lopez wants to talk all that stuff about Devin Haney being the email champion and this and that, then go ahead and back up your words and fight Devin Haney. Why not?
I hope he does it, but I'm telling you, I have my doubts because I was listening to Teofimo Lopez on Lance Pugmire and Mike Coppinger's podcast last week, and to me, Teofimo Lopez has been on a campaign to delegitimize Devin Haney as a champion. And I think the only reason why he's doing that is so the public won't demand that he fights Devin Haney.
Well, I know that you don't pay attention to these other guys, but apparently Lopez was on that show on Monday, or Monday or something like that. So
who, Akim Barak?
Yeah, Akim Barak. So they have to catch up on that to see what Lopez said then and kind of like bring an update to that when it comes to the lightweight situation. Because, like Terrell was saying, you have a potential of the 135-pound division being a glamour division of the sport of boxing with these four young fighters that could, all fight each other and have, the hunger to, try and fight each other. So, there is that. Wanted to revisit something here because do have Matt on. Matt was the one that kind of dropped the bird is a word about Keith Thurman and his team talking to Bob Arum about having a fight with Terence Crawford. So maybe Bomac doesn't have to be part of this. I love Bomac, but Bomac, yo. But I said before y'all got on that it would be kind of like an interesting situation because you have this thing where Terence Crawford had his last fight, and that last fight had a total purse of $6 million. And we do know about what was brought up a few weeks ago when it came to Sean Porter, and what Sean Porter said directly in reference to a potential fight between him and Terence Crawford. So if Thurman was reaching out to Terence Crawford, you think that he was gonna if he's gonna have that interest that what they're gonna pay him $1 million? Nah, I don't see that happening.
I don't see Thurman taking that.
Yeah, he's not gonna take that. So if Bob Arum or anybody that's part of Crawford's team responds and says $1 million to Keith Thurman, he's gonna laugh at him. He's gonna hang up the phone, and he's not gonna contact him again.
Yeah. I don't understand why Bob doesn't just let Crawford fight on a PBC controlled show, since Bob Arum says that he's tired of losing money on Crawford. Why don't we allow someone else to pay for the Crawford fight and just let Crawford fight on a different platform?
Ego. It has to be nothing but ego for that, And it's a shame because like you guys said, we know that Crawford Porter didn't happen. They lowballed the offer to Porter. They're certainly going to lowball the offer to Thurman, a former champion in the WBC, who's established and has been on pay-per-view, things like that. There's no one where he was except $1 million. And with Crawford only have virtually 2 fights left on his deal for the most. You think that there's definitely a way to make money with Crawford before his contract runs out. But once again, the in boxing, as we know, egos rule. And Bob Arum has definitely one of the biggest egos out there, and it's petty, and won't let that happen. It's just a shame. So, as much as we want to see Crawford, I say, like we said earlier in a couple podcasts ago, a couple months ago, he's going to have a couple of mandatories, and that's really about it. And in 2021,
I think he's going to end up fighting that Russian kid, Besputin, next.
Wait, what?
He's going to end up fighting Besputin next. I just have a feeling they're gonna dick tease us all, make us think that Thurman's going to happen, Porter's going to happen. Then he's going to fight the European bum in a month. He's going to fight Besputin. And we're not going to care. We're going to complain. The media, because, Arum controls the media, they're going to blame PBC. Oh, these guys don't want to fight Crawford. And then people are going to buy it hook, line, and sinker. It's going to be the same shit as always.
What about this fighter that was supposed to come in and fight last year for the thing but the thing is he's a mandatory though, and that's how big about.
You talking about Kudratio?
Yes.
Well, he's with PBC now.
Oh, see, now they just signed him, so they probably got something worked out for him
with Samson Lukowicz.
Lukowicz, yeah,
2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he's looking forward to opportunities with PBC. So there goes that. Another one bites the dust for Crawford.
Yep, that's out the window. And and I was looking at the rankings, and I'm like, okay, you got Sean Porter at number 1, Virgil Ortiz at number 2 with Golden Boy, and then you have a free agent by the name of Mikey Garcia, who in February of 2020 was able to get $7 million.
Eat.
2 fights, Jesse Vargas.
The funny thing about Mikey Garcia is recently he did an interview where he also said, "Hey, if Crawford comes to PBC, he'll fight him." So I guess Mikey Garcia is realigning himself with PBC also.
Well, I mean, he can, but I thought, he'd be him being a free agent, he could go and, move around as he pleases. But
yeah, but he he ain't getting that money again.
yeah, he ain't getting the $7 million if he going to PBC or anybody else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
he ain't getting that money again. So he's like, let me go back to Uncle Al. Let me see if Uncle Al can get something for me.
yeah, nah.
Even a brief statement recently, I can't verify it totally, but Pacquiao has kind of taken himself up. Basically said that Errol Spence is too slow.
Oh,
That,
yeah. He was talking
yeah,
spicy.
Yeah, he was talking spicy.
That's pretty crazy, considering the fact that of
Yeah.
the status of Errol Spence, what he's done, that he's a unified champion at this point, and the fact that Manny, of course, is an older person, but it's just kind of crazy for him that on top of saying he's looking forward to fight an MMA fighter. So what's really behind that?
I think he's gonna end up fighting Spence. To be honest with you, I've always thought that. I just think that he's basically downplaying Spence, which is funny to me because he said that Spence and McGregor are his options. Now we know Dana's not going to let him fight McGregor, so that just leaves Spence. But to me, this is the first time Pacquiao has named Spence as one of his options. Remember, he was talking Mikey Garcia before, so he actually named Spence as his boxing option. So I think that that's gonna be the fight that we get next, and people are really going to believe Pacquiao might be the favorite. So we'll see.
If he opens as the favorite, I'm going straight. I'm going straight to the books. I'm sorry, I'm going straight to the books. I thought that I think there was one time, if it was the Spence fight, I don't know if it was the Mikey Garcia fight or if it was before that, where Manny Pacquiao was in the ring with Errol Spence.
That was Mikey Garcia.
Yeah, that was Mikey Garcia. So, basically with that being said, I feel like, that was leaning towards them, fighting each other later on down the line. So when they had, Pacquiao, ended up beating Keith Thurman, then that kind of like, set the stage up. But then you had the thing with, Spence beating Porter, but then Danny Garcia stepped in the ring, and I was like, oh, man, he's going to have him fight Danny Garcia.
Well, because if you remember, Pacquiao was at the Spence Garcia fight because they thought Garcia was going to beat Spence for some reason.
Yeah. Because the thing was, Mikey Garcia had that plan the previous year.
Yeah.
He was going to fight Spence, and then he was going to fight Pacquiao. So
exactly.
That's how that kind of like, shaped up. But then, Spence just basically took him to school there, man. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of like next to Pacquiao Garcia fight. So, but yeah, I mean, Pacquiao's kind of, talking a little bit of smack, man. And
I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of leading up to, a good little fight there, man. And it's going to be like, hey, is Spence going to be, a 3-belt world champion, or is Manny Pacquiao going to add to his legacy or whatever it is? So, you know what I mean? Yeah, I feel like that's going to be, what's going to shape up here probably by what I'd say June or July this year. So, yeah, I feel like that's going to be the fight, especially with, McGregor. He has a MMA fight coming up, right?
Yeah, and Dana White was saying that McGregor is not boxing in 2021. If he's going to do it, it'll have to be 2022.
Yeah.
But dollars talk. A Pacquiao McGregor fight, that's going to do significant pay-per-view numbers. We know that.
It's going to do significant pay-per-view numbers, but Dana White doesn't have the same control that he had before. So why is he going to let his guy fight when he's not going to make that same money that he made off of McGregor Floyd?
I don't know, man. Just that. Well, we are once again with UFC events. Their money coming in is mainly controlled by Dana White and the UFC. They, like we always said before, they don't pay their fighters. But like I said, with that type of revenue, you cannot deny that type of revenue coming in for one event. You cannot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just feel like the thing though with McGregor and a potential fight against Manny Pacquiao, I don't really see, like Matt said, I don't really see like Dana White really making that type of revenue that he made for the Floyd fight. And on paper it just doesn't match up well because thing is like you got to build a fight of that magnitude with two guys where one guy you really wanted to see, like a lot of people wanted to see lose, and the other guy they wanted to see win. So that just builds for a lucrative pay-per-view fight, and I just don't see it here with Pacquiao and McGregor. I really don't see the interest in that. So why not just go ahead and try to see if you could be a 3-belt world champion at 41 years old, like that would be, just one of the biggest achievements in boxing history right there. So why not go for it? There was like some other thing I guess that, I was trying to, pull back from, but yeah, I feel like that's basically, all that, I could cover here at this particular point, except for what Terrell was talking about with the 130-pound weight class. But Matt doesn't really care about the 130-pound weight class.
I damn sure don't. First of all, the only interesting matchup is Virgil versus Valdez, and I think we all think we know how that's going to go.
Yep.
I don't care about Shakur Stevenson. No one's gonna make me care about Shakur Stevenson.
Oh man,
Herring is on his way out.
Even just to mention Shakur Stevenson, somebody on Twitter actually said he's going to be the best fighter. I forgot the exact words, but they said of this generation. I'm like,
oh please,
are you smoking or something?
I've seen that a few times, and I'm like, nah, not when I had a previous conversation with brother Jamil of YSM Sports, and he said that an amateur, a high-ranking amateur fighter was able to give Shakur Stevenson the business in the gym.
Yo, Shakur didn't even have a title defense at 126.
Right, he didn't.
Like, come on. Like, why is he? First of all, why is he trying to get in the way of Herring versus Frampton? Like, bro, go back to 126 and clean it out. How about that? Or try to clean out 130. Why are you trying to cherry pick the WBO title and follow the World Bob organization plan? Why don't you go fight one of the other champions? Or why don't you fight one of the other contenders that people care about at 130? Like I don't understand what it is he's trying to do with his career. He did nothing at 126. He didn't fight Warrington.
Nope.
He's doing nothing at 130. He's not. Why don't he try to fight the winner of Virgil versus Valdez? Like I don't understand what this guy's doing. At least try to fight the dude that just beat Rene Alvarado. That should have been him fighting Rene Alvarado. Like what is this guy doing?
Yeah.
Or fight Gary Russell. Fight somebody with a name that we care about.
Yeah.
Do you guys know why him and Andre Ward split up? What's the story behind
that? Jay Prince is a snake.
A snake or a snitch or what? Because
when you do business with Jay Prince, that's what happens.
Hey, I just felt like Jay Prince kind of like had that whole thing be nixed, especially when that whole thing where he was supposed to unify at 126, but yeah, nah. And then people felt like it was something with some issue with Warrington when it was basically Andre Ward that said, I ain't gonna put Shakur Stevenson in that fight just yet, or whatever. So
why didn't Shakur at least fight Zucan or something? Like, I don't understand. Like, he had no title defenses, no unifications, and now he's trying to cherry pick the WBO belt because everyone knows that this is going to be Herring's last fight. He basically said so. So why are you trying to cherry pick this man on his way out when he has a lucrative fight that he's been working on for basically a year now?
Yep. So you can't, be in the way of this fight. Now, like I was saying, you got two super featherweight title fights happening over the course of 1 week with, the Virgil Valdez fight happening first, and then you have Herring against Frampton the next weekend. So I just say, go ahead and have those fights happening, and then just try to make your move from there. I say, go after the WBC champion.
Yeah,
it's going to be a more lucrative fight. Number one, and number two, you basically would kind of like hold the cards as far as like being a highly ranked guy in the super featherweight division. If you get the win over the winner of that fight. So I feel like Stevenson should just, go ahead, chill out, and then see what happens in the next, the next month plus, and then make his move from there. But it kind of like seems like he was leaning towards fighting Jamel Herring, and he wanted to fight Jamel Herring as soon as possible. And I'm like, yeah, like you were saying, Matt, he's basically on his way out. He's done what he could do, and he's got the belt. Now he's going to get his money and then be, set on that, man.
Yeah, I'm not feeling Shakur Stevenson, but I told you this from the beginning when he first debuted. I've never been impressed with the guy. I've never liked the kid. I didn't like how he went at Floyd's daughter when she was still underage. I didn't like the whole gas station incident. I've never cared for Shakur Stevenson, and his boxing career is turning out exactly how I thought it would. He's just a guy who just don't got the power. He's gonna try to box and bedazzle you, and I don't care about that. I don't want to see that.
Yeah, feel you. And that's basically going to be the gist of his career.
Why don't he fight Chris Colbert?
Ooh, I don't know if he wants to, fight Chris Colbert, man.
There's fights out there for him that could be interesting.
Right. Or JoJo Diaz.
Yeah. And JoJo will fight him. JoJo will fight anybody.
Yep.
And not to mention the fact that they keep marking Stevenson that, he never gets hit. He rarely gets hit. Well, put him in there. Makes sense. Put him in there. Let's see if that
of course he's not going to get hit against fucking Toka Khan Clary and Joette Gonzalez. Like, these are guys that are never wases, man. Like, when was the last time you seen an interesting Joette Gonzalez fight? Where's he been after he fought Stevenson? Where was he before he fought Stevenson? The only reason why anyone cared about that fight was because him and the sister was fucking.
Yeah, babe, that's what that was. And the thing with
and that relationship didn't even last, by the way. I just want to point that out.
Sure didn't. And the thing with Clary was Clary had lost to Kate Galahad, so, and that was at 126.
Yeah.
So it was like, man.
It's just so many guys Shakur could have fought, and he seems to have no interest in it. I don't get it. Because Everyone's saying he needs to step up and fight someone. He got mad at Buddy McGirt because Buddy McGirt said, hey, he ain't fight nobody. Who's this guy's fight? And Buddy McGirt is absolutely right. This guy is fighting no one.
And he's able to, get through it. And, what's crazy is he could have stayed at 126 and not only could have, had a potential to unify at 126, but right now, you could have had a fight between him and Emmanuel Navarrete.
Exactly. He had a chance to fight Emmanuel. I was hoping that he would stay and fight Emmanuel Navarrete when Navarrete was moving up. But of course, Shakur's not going to fight nobody interested. You even mentioned Kid Galahad. Why he never fought Kid Galahad? Like, why these guys at 126? Why'd you move up without fighting any of these guys? Why'd you move up without defending your title not once? And how is it the WBO names him the mandatory when it's not like he even defended his previous WBO title?
Yeah, he didn't.
It doesn't make any sense.
But
Zoto Ramirez got a fight in a 4-man tournament. Get the fuck out of here, man. Come on.
Yeah, that was nuts. And my thing was, even with the thing where he was supposed to fight Miguel Mariaga, that was going to be his first defense of the WBO title against Miguel Mariaga. And of course, that got shot down, and they didn't even want to rehash that in what was it, like 3 months or so? Like the first fight was June 9th.
I think.
Yeah, June 9th. So you mean to tell me that he couldn't still have that defense in 3 months?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That's basically having a month off and then going right back in camp. So I find that interesting now, man. That's just
he's a prospect. Let's just call it. He's a prospect that was gifted a title. That's all it was, basically.
Man, I mean, it's kind of like what it's looking like here. And
he's still fighting prospect fights.
So yeah, that's basically what I got. Other than one announcement of it's gonna be, I guess, announced on Friday, but people know about it already, and that's in March. Should be March 6th or whatever it is. The rematch between Alexander Povetkin and Dylan White. Will it be the last fight of Dylan White's career?
I hope so. I hope so.
Or will he be able to resurrect his career by beating Alexander Povetkin?
Yeah, imagine that. This guy who, according to him, is the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time. He needs to resurrect his career against a 41-year-old guy that knocked him stiff.
Hey, and that's crazy, man. Like, who is it? And he had and Alexander Povetkin had a draw against Huey Fury, folks. Huey Fury, right?
No, wasn't it Michael Hunter?
Oh, what? Yeah, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, that's right. It was Michael Hunter, because he actually man, he beat Huey, didn't he? Yeah,
he beat Huey. It just wasn't interesting.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a bad fight. I'm sorry, that was a bad fight.
Well, Huey Fury, he has nothing but bad fights.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, too, if Dylan White loses against Povetkin yet again, he's if he does continue boxing, he's pretty much gonna be the next Del Boy. That's what it's gonna turn into. Seriously, think about it.
Oh man, that's gonna be bad.
I tell you what, get this. Let's say Dylan White does beat Povetkin. Who's logical for him to fight next? Joe Joyce. That's logical stuff right there.
Joe Joyce to beat his ass.
He'll beat him. I'm sorry. There's no there is no way. Yep, I'm gonna put it on record. There is no way that Dylan White is going to be able to beat Joe Joyce. It's just not going to happen.
White doesn't have the stamina. he does not have the stamina to keep up with Joe Joyce.
I don't think he's gonna. He would be able to hurt Joe Joyce. To be honest, I just don't see it. You know, I feel like it's gonna be another one of them, fights like he had with Daniel Dubois. Only thing is that maybe Dylan White will be a little bit more active, but once the jabs, he'll get jabbed up too. I'm sorry, he'll get jabbed up, and he won't have any answer for it.
Well, Eddie, as usual, is talking about Dillian White versus Deontay Wilder. Why everybody clout chasing my boy? Like, leave Wilder alone. Wilder's focused on Fury.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, man. I'm like, I don't know. Like, it seems like he's not really. I wouldn't necessarily say talking about Tyson Fury like that, but I don't know, man. I thought I would have heard some type of announcement as far as like the fight happening, man. I felt like it was going to happen in February.
They're saying that mediation is not going to be done until the end of January, so you're not going to hear anything anytime soon. Which is why I always find it funny when they say, "Oh, Joshua versus Fury is on track," according to Eddie Hearn. Well, guess what? Eddie Hearn's not in mediation, so who gives a fuck what Eddie Hearn thinks? Eddie Hearn just pulled a bait and switch on the public a half an hour ago. That Warrington versus Zucan fight is not happening.
No, well, I'm going to tell you this right now. We don't care. Come on, like, who is interested in that fight? Who?
Hey, listen, apparently it needs marinating. They said that it needs fans.
Ain't nobody interested in a fight between Warrington and Zucan or Kanzu or,
I think they got like 8 knockouts between them.
Like, come on. Listen, next that fight, have Josh Warrington fly over stateside and let's have him fight Gary Russell Jr.
That's not happening. Stop
and
it.
I know it ain't going to happen because they ain't going to really go for that. So, if they're going to have these supposed announcements that are supposed to happen on Friday and
Wilder Fury 3 will actually happen, do you really think that's going to happen? Because despite no substance, it looks like they're making it forward to be a push for Joshua Fury instead.
And listen, they could make a push. It doesn't matter though. Listen, explain this to me. Why in the world would PBC ever do business with Top Rank again if Top Rank screws them out of this trilogy that they worked hard on and agreed to?
Money.
That would basically be it, because the other major party involved in this is Disney, because they're the ones that are over Fox and ESPN, and they were part of the TV deal. They picked it up. They, put down the money for it. So why would they not have an opportunity to kind of get more money off of the third fight?
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense, especially when you have the ESPN Plus streaming service where they all get to keep the bulk of the money. They don't have to pay cable and satellite providers.
Well, but here was one of the things that I mentioned when I said I had 2 factors in reference to the fight with Wilder and Fury. That TV thing with Disney is one of them. The second is Tyson Fury's deal. He's 3 fights in.
Yep.
So the reason why they want to probably try to push for Fury Joshua is because they feel, hey, we get more money if we get those 2 fights in.
Yeah, but here's the thing. What do we know about Bob Arum? Bob Arum likes to keep you in the contract for the rest of your life.
Right.
So why not have Wilder Fury 3 next? He'll have 1 fight left on his deal, but then you're going to make him sign a 2-fight deal with Anthony Joshua, which would keep the top-ranked gravy train going just a little bit more. Because Top Rank is going to get in on that rematch.
Right. And my thing has been always this, regardless of the mediation and anything like that. If you had tried to set up this fight between Fury and Joshua, that was, man, it's been almost 4 or 5 months, right? So you mean to tell me that you couldn't get this thing where you could have had Fury and Wilder fight while Joshua goes ahead and gets his IBF mandatory done, goes ahead and gets his WO mandatory done, and he would have been free, and the winner of Wilder and Fury would have been free, and still have the undisputed heavyweight title fight in the summer of this year.
Well, that's because Tyson Fury wasn't really interested in doing the trilogy. That's what people are not talking about. Tyson Fury is doing what he always does. He's doing what he did to Vladimir Klitschko. He's trying to take his victory and run. That's what British people do. British people like to take their victory and run.
Oh no.
Hey, why haven't we seen Ruiz versus Joshua 3?
Come on, man.
No, these fucking British people, man. They like to take their victory and run. I don't respect it.
I don't think Ruiz Joshua 3 would have been able to be done at that point, though.
Why not? Why not? It's 1-1. Why not have the trilogy? Because Joshua want to take his victory and run. That's why. That's why. It's fucking British people, man. It's fucking British people, man. You can't trust the British.
The thoughts and expressions used on this particular video is not from the boxing source or the boxing source incorporated.
Fucking British people, man. I swear.
Jeez, man.
That's why I was happy when Leo Santa Cruz did that shit to Carl Frampton. No, I'm gonna take my fucking victory and run, you bitch.
Hey, man, I gotta see if my boy Otto Wallin could be back on, man, because he has that fight with Dominic Brazil, man.
Yeah, that's gonna be good. I'm feeling that. That's gonna be actually a good card. You're gonna have that fight. You're gonna have Broner, and then you're gonna have Robert Easter also. So that's gonna be a good card.
Oh, Easter's on that card.
It's gonna be Wallin versus Brazil. Broner fighting whoever he's gonna fight, and then Robert Easter is also gonna be fighting on that card.
So he can give a great account of himself coming back to that division with so much happening at 135.
I think Robert Easter is gonna be at 140 now.
Think so?
I don't think he can make 135 no more.
Yeah, that's crazy. That. Oh, wait a minute. Is there any updates on this thing? Because the rec ain't showing that card, man.
Well, what happened was the opponent that Broner was supposed to fight, Pedro Campa, he caught COVID, so he's out. So they're searching for a new opponent for Broner, and then the fighter that Easter was supposed to fight, he caught COVID, so he's out. So they're searching for an opponent for Easter. It's not going to be on BoxRec no time soon until they can find replacement opponents.
Oh man, why don't they just go ahead and get Ivan Red Catch and put him in the ring against Adrian Broner,
Because
man.
Broner is fighting at 140. He's not going to fight at 147.
No.
Broner's trying to get down in weight, man. Listen, he's been out working with Tank and Xander Zayas. They've all been down in Florida working out together, and they've all been looking pretty good.
Well, they're gonna have a good luck in trying to find somebody.
What's up
Listen,
with
they
your
put
man
him in
Hooker?
against Gabriel Matias.
Nah, they're not gonna do that. Come on now, it's too soon.
Well,
What's up with your
I
man
mean,
Maurice Hooker, though, man?
if Broner is going to be campaigning at 140 pounds, I think that he may end up probably trying to be in a fight with Regis Prograis
Let's
later
hope
this year.
so.
You know,
Let's hope
so
so. That's a good fight.
yeah, it's a good fight. So I'm saying, like, hey, have something, in the interim, but I don't think, it'll be something like a Subriel Matias, though.
Now, what's going on with Mighty Mo Hooker?
Man, nobody knows.
Is he really
Nobody
gonna fight
knows.
Virgil
Like
Ortiz?
first he was there with Top Rank or Matchroom, and he had the belt, and he lost the belt to Ramirez, and then he tried to, have a fight up at 147. He had a fight at 147. Then he was supposed to fight Prograis, and that fight fell through. And now what? I guess he's not, under PBC.
Yeah, according to Dan Rayfield, the deal fell through before it was signed.
Yeah.
So now, allegedly, he signed a 2-fight deal with Golden Boy, where he's gonna fight Virgil Ortiz next, and then win or lose, he's gonna have one more fight with Golden Boy.
Virgil Ortiz, man, against oh man, Virgil Ortiz against Maurice Hooker. Yeah, no, I don't see
Listen,
how.
if Bomac is any type of trainer, Hooker could win that fight.
And Hooker
Yeah,
has not actually, and Hooker hasn't had a fight at 147 yet, right?
Hooker has not had a fight at 147 yet. No.
Well, that's a even though good trainers in place, that's kind of in a sense a hell of a way to introduce him to 147 was first fight at welterweight.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not sure if you
Ortiz is
want
a
to do it.
prospect, man. Yo, I feel the same way about this fight that I feel about Kovalev versus Beck the Bully. If you veteran guys who are supposedly good boxers with these long jabs and all this other stuff, if you guys can't beat these prospects, then it is time for you to go. So to me, if Maurice Hooker cannot beat Virgil Ortiz, he is officially the Black Rocky Juarez, and he's gonna be the fucking gatekeeper that people just beat on their way up.
He'd just be the one that you get before you go over and fight those contenders,
Yeah.
man. That's it. And that's crazy to say that about someone that has a current record of 27 wins, 1 loss, and 3 draws. But I
And he's
mean,
with a known trainer. Like, what the fuck is Bomac doing, man?
man, I don't know, man. It's
I'm starting to think Bomac is not a good trainer. I'm starting to think he's only a good chef. We know he's not good at being a manager. Now trainer's next because he almost had Heron beat by some fucking headbutt and bum, okay, and by the grace of Nevada rules, Heron was able to dip out of that fight and still get the victory. What's going on with Bomac the trainer, man? What's up with your boy?
and I don't know what's up with Bomac, man. I might have to talk to him once again, man. To see what's up with him because if he can't, get Maurice Hooker in a position to get a good fight. Like how do you have Maurice Hooker not be lined up to be part of that card with Errol Spence?
I think that's on Hooker. I think Hooker is just fat for the weight. I think he's having trouble getting down in weight, man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that could be the case, man. But like, yo, you had like basically two shots because the fight with Prograis got shot down because of your weight. So now you're like, okay, let me see if I could just get another fight in at 147 or something. But nope, he didn't even do that.
Man,
So
he better beat Virgil Ortiz, man. I'm telling you.
if he goes up
He
against Virgil
better.
Ortiz,
Little ass Virgil Ortiz.
I know a couple people that will pick Virgil Ortiz right now.
I think most people are gonna pick him, but I just don't understand how Hooker can't beat him. Like, if Bomac is a good trainer, like people claim he is, then Virgil Ortiz should not be able to beat Maurice Hooker because Maurice Hooker has all the tools to beat him.
He has the length, the range, and all of that, but
Yeah,
I don't know about his defense.
man. Oh, Bomac. I gotta talk to Bomac. I need to talk to this guy, man.
Well, you can hit him up on Facebook, bro.
Yeah, I might have to reactivate my Facebook just to talk to this guy, man. Like, what's going on, Bomac, the trainer?
Baby, you should go in with the alias, man, like some of my other people have been doing. So, and then holler at Bomac, on the side or something, man. So, but yeah, that's pretty much what I got, man. I've been on for a good little bit, man. Thanks for Terrell and Matt for jumping on here for the midweek report. Gotta be getting back on this stuff, but with there not being much live action until the 23rd, that's gonna be a struggle unless there's some news happening.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, even small note too. Aaron announced that they won't be. They won't. Yeah, what is it? ESPN won't be showing boxing until what? March or something like that. Yeah, crazy. So we won't even have those middle cards by top ranking at all to enjoy.
No, I think they're skipping March.
Yeah, they must be skipping the month of March, man.
They
Because
said they don't want to compete with March Madness or something like that.
yeah. So I'm like, they gotta, basically, they'll put the action on the wayside there for that time frame. But in the meantime, we'll see what they got going on. They might try to do something on ESPN Plus though. Actually, but outside of that, I don't see much going on within the main ESPN network there. So yeah, that's it, man. I'll be back at it Sunday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. The podcast is on and popping, and we'll just catch y'all there, man. Until then, I'm out. Peace, yo.
Peace.